Hello everyone. Thank you for joining. We are Team Metro-Menders and we are here to present our project that is Detroit Reclaim. Our agenda for today's presentation is we'll be going over our problem statement, our user research, brainstorming and conceptual design, high fidelity design, usability testing, and learnings and conclusions. So just to understand how we landed here as a project, uh, to know more about Detroit, as we all know, Detroit is known as the mega city. In the early to mid 20th century, Detroit had a great boom in terms of automobile industry, economic shift, economic prosperity, and also known as a cultural hub. But post 20th century, it saw a great downfall in terms of like decentralization. There was population decline, urban decay, and this was all because of our industrial crisis. And presently, what we see is there is a surge for revitalization efforts in the city. And in terms of what Detroit is facing right now is there's a lot of urban blight, there's economic shifts, there are a lot of underutilized spaces in the city, and due to which there's a high crime rate within the city, and it's not really safe to walk around in the city of Detroit. And me being personally connected with the city of Detroit in terms of revitalization efforts, I could see a lot of issues, and some of them were like as part of our NGO, they find it really hard finding volunteers or donations. And in terms of being a resident, they do not really know how to collaborate with each other and how to come up with different ideas to revitalize their alleys or any underutilized spaces next door. And we, as a team for Capstone project, as human-centered designers, we wanted to make this experience more seamless and make some solution that could help in revitalization efforts for the city of Detroit. That's how we came up with this topic. And here is a methodology. We did a lot of user research in terms of like background research, user interviews, focus groups. Then that helped us defining our user personas. We further did design, conceptual designing, detailed designing, storyboarding, and usability testing. And so going ahead with our user research, so we first started with a little bit of literature review. We conducted literature review from 8 different resources, starting from like newsletters, peer-reviewed journals, and YouTube videos. And a major key takeaways here was stakeholder involvement plays a key role in any kind of revitalization effort. And it is also important for empowering community members so that they could take up key roles and um, make revitalization crucial and make it more successful. And another thing, what we noticed here was Detroit is perceived to be more of a like when you hear about Detroit, there are a lot of negative notations in your head. So that was not really good. And the next thing, what we came up was there are a lot of miles together long alleys, and they are presently very dead. And if they are being more vibrant, they really have a lot of potential in the city. So we also did a bit of benchmarking here. We did not really have direct mobile apps or websites to look at. That's why we considered applications or websites which had a lot of stakeholder involvement in it, like Reddit or Nextdoor or Detroit City website. Going ahead, we then conducted 8 user interviews and 2 focus group interviews. Our participants ranged from like 26 to 60 age group, and they came from varied occupations. That is from they being government employees, non-government organizations, educators, and from private sectors. They were all from Detroit City, Metro Detroit, and also visitors. So we also wanted to understand what happens on grounds. That was the main reason for us to do contextual inquiry here. We attended a couple of community events to understand how they talk about their issues or how they collaboratively solve their issues and how they collaboratively work on community projects within their neighborhood. And here, if you see on the right side, these are some of the initiatives on in their neighborhood which they did as a collaborative event. That's the DIY bench or a library kiosk. And so going ahead with our research analysis, we did affinity mapping to understand how we could proceed with our user personas. We came up with three user personas based on resident profile, visitor, and visitor profile. Here, Jordan is a resident, and his main goal was to make Detroit more safe, his neighborhood more safe for his kids. And our key research findings here were stewardship and community well-being plays a key role in any revitalization or any community project. And we also saw that there were a lot of problems in terms of finding resources, like users did not really know how to make a space active. So project coming up with project ideas or space for upskilling was a important thing here. And most of the residents were also not aware of what was happening in and around their neighborhood. So creating awareness through real world examples. And there was also a need for collaboration tools, resource sharing, and space for funding or donating. So these helped us set a stage for our themes for features, that was like community, keeping community at the center, addressing user issues, uh, building a platform which shows positive examples of change, and giving a platform for stakeholder involvement, boosting Detroit pride, and helping neighborhood community members collaboratively work together through communication tools. So going ahead with brainstorming and conceptual design, I pass it on to Khajista.
Thank you, Bhavana. Yeah, you can next, please. You can go ahead. Yeah. So during the ideation phase of our project, we conducted brainstorming sessions. Our goal here was to generate innovative ideas to address the challenge of revitalizing the neglected urban spaces in Detroit, as well as fostering community engagement. So we explored the technique of crazy eight iteratively, where we generated ideas and further refined them. We generated multiple ideas and also looked into various existing concepts that were similar to our ideas and created an idea book. We also created storyboards to express our ideas better. Next, please. So as we transitioned into conceptual design, one of the key ideas that emerged from our ideation session was a concept of a mobile app that serves as a centralized platform for discovering, participating in, and organizing community driven initiatives. This idea also stemmed from various insights that we gathered through user research, which revealed a need of a better access to information about underutilized spaces and opportunities for community involvement. We began sketching out the key features and functionalities of this app. We mapped out user flows, created wireframes, and developed low fidelity prototype to visualize our concept. Throughout this process, we focus on designing an intuitive and user-friendly interface that would appeal to a wide range of audience. Next, please. So here are the key features that we mapped out for the app. The first one is the project creation, where we saw people during our initial user research, we saw that people in Detroit are investing lots of time in project to rebuild their city. So we imagined a space where we can provide these users to plan, create, and share these projects, and where it could reach a larger audience, and also provide them a window to volunteer or donate to these projects. The next, the app will also host an interactive map feature, which will allow the user to access different events that are going on in the city. One of the innovative features that we incorporated into the app during the conceptual design phase was the virtual graffiti, where it would provide an immersive experience. Users can use their smartphones to create a virtual graffiti art installation anywhere in the city and share it with others. Next would be marketplace, where user can buy, sell different physical resources. This idea also stemmed from the need of resources during various events and projects that the people conducted around in the city. Also, this provides opportunity for local businesses and community members to grow. The app will also host a chat room, which would allow communication and community engagement. Lastly, the AR visualizer to provide an immersive experience where the users are able to interactively design their alleys and neighborhood. Next, please. So this is a storyboard for virtual graffiti
What if
that
you held
was created for the users and stakeholder.
the power to transform Detroit in your hands? Imagine, Elena, a visitor to Detroit standing in front of a dull wall. It's a blank canvas, a space crying out for vibrance and life. Elena remembers she has the Detroit Reclaim app and reaches into her pocket to pull out her smartphone. She opens the app and navigates to the virtual graffiti tool. As Elena taps on the screen, a palette of colors, a spectrum of possibilities opens up. With a swipe of her fingers, she makes her mark on the city. The once drab wall is now vibrant with color, transforming the gray canvas into a dynamic mural. Every stroke, every splash of color brings the wall and the city one step closer to its revival. With each stroke, the wall and the city comes to life.
So we refined our ideas and translated them into polished user interfaces. Next, please. We created a UI style guide, which was inspired from the theme of Detroit. We created the colors from Detroit as an inspiration from Detroit. Next, please. So these are high fidelity designs that we created after extensive research, ideation, and conceptual design. Next, please. We prioritize user experience and visual aesthetics to deliver an app that not only meets the needs of our users, but also inspires them to take an active role in shaping the future of their community. Next, please. Next, please. So this is a prototype for high fidelity wireframes. You can go ahead and play. Users can create and log into their accounts. So let's look at the home screen where users can access community events, view a gallery of projects and events, and get involved. Moving on to the events exploration feature, user can easily discover ongoing and upcoming events in their area. The map interface allows them to browse projects by location. They can view details and then register for an event. The next is discussion forum. This is to provide a medium for communication among the users through chat rooms. They can also create groups to facilitate discussion. For example, they can create a chat room and add others for an upcoming project. Projects is a space for users to come together for a common cause, where people can view project description, and if they're interested, they can do more and get more involved through volunteering or donating. Another highlight is the AR street visualizer, which allows the users to design and redesign their neighborhood and their alleys through different elements that they can add and move around on their phone. We also have a marketplace that facilitates sharing of resources. People can view products that are listed there. They can also create their own listing and put up products or any resource that they are willing to sell or share among the other members in the community. We have already talked about the virtual graffiti feature. This allows the user to digitally paint graffiti art on the virtual walls located throughout the city. They can save and share this with their art within the app. Yeah, next, I would pass it on to Taylor.
Great, thank you. So now we'll move on to our usability testing. So for our testing, we wanted to utilize both qualitative and quantitative methods to really understand the usability of our app. It's important to note that while the overall problem we're solving for is neglect and blight within the city of Detroit, we can't really directly measure any revitalization changes with just our prototype and, of course, the short amount of time that we had. Therefore, our goals truly are based around usability and navigation of the app itself. For quantitative testing, we wanted to evaluate usability and confirm that design decisions and modifications were in fact contributing to a better user experience. To do this, we utilized both Likert scale evaluation and system usability score. Participants of the testing filled out both for both rounds of testing. We completed 2 rounds of testing. For qualitative testing, we used task-based think aloud protocol to find where users were confused or where they were experiencing issues that we addressed before the second round of testing. Next slide. So we completed 2 rounds of testing, first to identify usability issues, and second to validate design modifications that we made. We tested with 8 people total, a mix of men and women with ages ranging from 25 to 45, as well as a mix of professions and residents versus visitors of Detroit. Our testing was closed using the same participants for each round, but tasks were randomized to account for any learning. The following 6 tasks were chosen as they were the main features of our app that we've talked about previously. Each participant completed the tasks in both rounds of testing. Next slide. So moving on to the analysis of our testing, here we've plotted the main issues that we came across in testing based on both frequency and importance. This helped us to prioritize our design modifications, especially given the short time frame. Most participants found that the AR visualizer and the virtual graffiti were very difficult to find, making this our highest priority modification to make. Other important changes included the marketplace listing wording being pretty confusing, as well as the homepage looking more like a social media. A few items we chose to deprioritize are a calendar view for events and things like color changes and profile picture sizing. Next slide. So next we'll take a bit of a deep dive into some of the major design modifications that were made. So first and the largest change is our home screen. We redesigned that so because our participants were really confused as to what the main features of the app were, since the homepage really had more of a social media feel. We decided to redesign the homepage to feature those main aspects of the app up front so that our users could more easily find what they were looking for and also provide some context for the app itself. This helped to address issues such as visibility, recognition over recall, and learnability. Next slide. So next we heard that participants were confused when navigating to the projects page and how or where they could learn more about the projects to either donate or volunteer for them. We made this more clear and visible by adding a Learn More button where users could see those options again to volunteer or donate for the project. On the next slide, we have several other design modifications that were made, such as rewording the discussion forum to discussion group, changing navigation of the events page to first show the event details, and then optionally provide directions, whereas at first we showed those directions first, and then the user had to click into more details about the event. And lastly, we added more options to the AR visualizer so that users could truly customize their ideas. And on the next slide, we showed just a few of those visuals from those changes. Again, the AR visualizer providing more of that customizability, and our discussion forum changing that from the wording forum to group to more accurately display what we were getting after with that feature. Next slide. So next, to analyze the quantitative information we gathered, here we have detailed out the user answers for both the first round of testing and the second round of testing. So each block here represents a user's response to each task on the Likert scale. So we just have a sampling of our tasks here. We can see that for the first round of testing on the left, there's a lot of yellow and orange. And on the right, for the second round of testing, we see more of that green or blue that is very easy to complete that task. So of course, there's still some room for improvement here, but overall we see a nice increase in usability and ease of task completion after mostly minor design changes that we made. Next slide, please. So finally, the results of our system usability score for the first round of testing showed a marginal score of 70.42. And after our design modifications for our second round of testing, it was up to an acceptable 86.25. So once again, still room for improvement, but overall happy with the increases in these scores that we saw. Next slide. And one more. So moving on to our learnings and conclusion here. The main learnings we had over these past 2 semesters are, first, the importance of placing the community at the center of the design. Detroiters are very passionate about their city and really want to say in how or what is changed. Next, we feel that innovative features such as our virtual graffiti really have the potential to get people excited and lead real change and revitalization. Lastly, our app has some features that are inspired by other platforms, but overall it's a very innovative concept with little to no true comparisons. This made it pretty challenging to explain to users, and therefore we found the iterative approach to testing to be really important and helpful. However, we also recognize that there definitely is some learning curve, so our usability scores, we're far from perfect there. So in conclusion, we know that in order to build a fully functioning app, the work couldn't or wouldn't stop here. More iteration and testing would definitely be needed. However, we're definitely proud of the work we've put in the past 2 semesters, and more importantly, learned a lot in the process and had fun doing it. So we'll wrap up here on the next slide with a final storyboard, which shows the major features of our app and the final designs included.
Jordan lives in the heart of Detroit and has always had a passion for his city. Behind Jordan's home is an alleyway. It's a forgotten space, overgrown and littered with trash. Enter the AR Visualizer, a tool on the Detroit Reclaim app that allows Jordan to see beyond the present and envision a future where this alleyway is transformed into a community garden. Next, Jordan uses the Marketplace feature to find seedlings and garden beds to include in his alley transformation. He loves being able to buy directly from neighbors and local businesses. Meanwhile, in the suburbs of Detroit, Elena is planning her weekend. She's always loved the city and wants to contribute to its revitalization. She discovers an upcoming composting event in the app's events section and promptly registers, excited to see how she can make a difference. But she doesn't stop there. Elena finds herself browsing through in-progress projects, and there it is, Jordan's community garden. She's moved by his vision and decides to donate to the cause. Through the power of the Detroit Reclaim app, Jordan and Elena, along with countless others, are making a difference. They're not just restoring buildings and alleyways, they're breathing life back into their city. Jordan.
Thank you, and happy to take any questions.